9 powerful techniques from Stoicism to silence anxiety and embrace serenity. Imagine this: you're standing on a crowded street. The noise of honking cars, chattering crowds, and ringing phones creates a cacophony that mirrors the storm inside your mind. Deadlines loom, decisions feel paralyzing, and the smallest disruption sends waves of panic through your chest. It feels like you're trapped in a relentless storm. But what if I told you there's a way to find unshakable calm? To silence anxiety and embrace serenity even when the world feels like it's crumbling around you? This is where Stoicism, a philosophy forged in the fires of ancient adversity, steps in. We're diving deep into 9 profound techniques from Stoicism to overcome anxiety and find peace. But first, ask yourself, what if everything you've ever needed to conquer your inner turmoil is already within you? Let's begin with the first powerful idea, the dichotomy of control. This concept is the foundation of Stoic thought, a lighthouse guiding us through the storm. The Stoics taught that life is divided into 2 categories, what we can control and what we cannot. Think about it. Anxiety often stems from trying to control the uncontrollable, other people's opinions, the outcomes of our efforts, or even the weather. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Take a moment, reflect. How much of your worry today revolves around things beyond your control? What if you redirected that energy to mastering your reactions instead? This leads us to the second technique, practicing negative visualization. First, it may sound counterintuitive, even unsettling. Why should we imagine the worst-case scenario? But here's the brilliance of it. By contemplating the worst, we rob it of its power. Seneca urged us to rehearse our fears, not to dwell in despair, but to diminish their hold on us. What if you woke up tomorrow with everything you dreaded already happening? Could it be that the anticipation of suffering is often worse than the suffering itself? Imagine a scenario where your greatest fear, losing a job, failing a test, or facing rejection, comes true. Now, envision yourself adapting, learning, and growing despite it. Can you see how this shift reframes fear? The third technique is voluntary discomfort. Picture this, an affluent philosopher like Musonius Rufus walking barefoot, choosing plain clothes, and eating coarse bread. Why? Because willingly embracing hardship prepares us for life's inevitable challenges. In modern terms, this could mean skipping a comfort like air conditioning on a mild day or limiting unnecessary spending. When we strip life to its essentials, we discover how little we truly need. How often do we confuse wants with needs? And how does that contribute to our anxiety? Now pause. Have you ever felt the weight of expectations, those imposed by society, others, or yourself? This brings us to the fourth technique, understanding your role in the greater whole. The Stoics believed we are part of a larger cosmos, interconnected and interdependent. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." When anxiety makes you feel isolated, remember you are a vital thread in the grand tapestry of existence. Does this perspective lighten your burden? Knowing your struggles are part of something greater? Let's shift to the fifth technique, the power of journaling. The night was silent except for the faint rustle of parchment. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor burdened with war and governance, sat writing his meditations. Through journaling, he unraveled his thoughts, reframed his struggles, and found clarity. What if, every evening, you wrote down what troubled you, separating what you can control from what you can't? Could this simple act transform chaos into clarity? Think about this. Do you ever feel trapped by the past or anxious about the future? Here lies the sixth technique, living in the present moment. Epictetus taught, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Anxiety often drags us into a future that doesn't exist or traps us in a past we cannot change. But what if you anchored yourself in now? Feel your breath, notice the texture of your surroundings, and ground yourself in this moment. Is serenity waiting in the simplicity of the present? The seventh technique is a more fatty, loving your fate. Imagine this: everything that happens to you, every joy and heartbreak, is not just something to endure but something to embrace. To love your fate means to say yes to life in its entirety. Nietzsche later echoed this Stoic sentiment. My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different. If you loved everything that has shaped you, would your anxiety dissolve into gratitude? Next is the discipline of assent, the 8th technique. Think of your mind as a fortress. Every thought knocking on your door must prove its worth before entering. The Stoics teach us to question our impressions. Is this fear rational? Does this worry serve me? Imagine halting anxiety at the gate by challenging its validity. Would your inner peace grow stronger? Finally, we arrive at the practice of virtue. The Stoics believed virtue, courage, wisdom, temperance, and justice was the ultimate goal of life. When we act in accordance with these virtues, we align with our highest selves. Imagine approaching every decision with the question, is this the virtuous path? Could living this way anchor you amidst life's chaos? Before we continue, reflect on this. If you implemented just one of these techniques, how might your life transform? If you embraced all 9, could you achieve the serenity you've always sought? The Stoic superpower, mastering your mind to conquer modern chaos. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You're standing in the middle of a bustling city. The world moves at lightning speed, with notifications pinging, demands piling up, and your mind racing to keep up. Modern life feels like a relentless tide pulling you under. But what if I told you that your mind holds a hidden superpower? One that the Stoics mastered centuries ago, to rise above the chaos and reclaim control. At its core, Stoicism is about mastery of the self. It's not about denying emotions or becoming a cold, unfeeling machine. Instead, it's about transforming how you respond to the world. So, let's dive deeper into these 9 techniques, exploring their profound applications in the modern age. Let's revisit the dichotomy of control, but through a modern lens. Picture this: you're stuck in traffic, running late for an important meeting. The frustration builds as you glare at the unmoving cars. What can you control here? Certainly not the traffic, but you can control your response. Perhaps this delay is an opportunity to reflect or listen to an inspiring podcast. Each time you choose to focus on what's within your power, you strengthen your inner fortress. What if every stressful moment became a chance to practice this dichotomy? Would your perspective shift? Now, consider negative visualization in the context of a digital age. Imagine losing access to your social media accounts, your smartphone, or even your job. How would that affect you? By visualizing these losses, you preemptively reduce their sting. Suddenly, the things you feared losing don't hold the same grip over you. Here's a question. If you were stripped of everything but your mind, how much would you still have? Voluntary discomfort takes on new meaning when applied to our modern comforts. Let's say you decide to spend a week without streaming services or avoid takeout coffee for a month. Initially, it feels like deprivation, but soon, you realize how little you need to feel content. Each voluntary act of discomfort builds resilience, teaching you to endure and even thrive without luxury. Can you imagine how empowering it feels to know you can adapt to any circumstance? Then there's understanding your role in the greater whole, a lesson that resonates even more deeply today. We live in a hyper-connected world where one person's actions ripple across the globe. Think about how your choices, what you buy, how you spend your time, affect the environment, society, and future generations. The Stoics remind us that by contributing to the greater good, we elevate our individual existence. Could this shift in perspective ease the weight of personal anxieties? Journaling, an ancient practice, remains one of the most powerful tools for modern mental clarity. Imagine ending your day by writing down your challenges, victories, and lessons learned. The act of putting pen to paper slows the racing mind, allowing you to untangle your thoughts. It's not just an outlet, it's a mirror reflecting your progress. If you started journaling tonight, What insights about yourself might you uncover in a week? In our fast-paced world, the idea of living in the present moment often feels elusive. We scroll through endless feeds, multitask, and rush from one obligation to the next. But what if you stopped? What if, right now, you took a deep breath and fully felt this moment, the texture of your chair, the rhythm of your breath, the words you're hearing? The present moment is the only place anxiety cannot touch. How often do you allow yourself to truly be here? Now, let's explore a more fatty in the context of failure, a universal fear in modern life. You pitch an idea, and it's rejected. You invest in a project, and it crumbles. Instead of lamenting, the Stoic mindset embraces these moments. They're not just setbacks but lessons, nudges steering you toward your destiny. What if every failure was a gift in disguise, teaching you exactly what you needed to grow? With the discipline of ascent, modern anxiety meets its match. Think about the flood of information we face daily. Headlines, opinions, ads, and endless notifications. The Stoics teach us to pause and evaluate. Is this thought true? Is it helpful? Is it worth my energy? Imagine if you filtered every thought this way. Would you find more peace amidst the noise? Finally, the practice of virtue takes on profound importance in an age of fleeting values. In a world that often rewards shortcuts and superficial success, living virtuously is a quiet rebellion. When you act with courage, wisdom, temperance, and justice, you build a foundation that no external storm can shake. If you lived every moment guided by virtue, how different would your life feel? Here's a challenge. Spend a single day applying these Stoic techniques. Notice what changes. When anxiety strikes, ask yourself, am I trying to control the uncontrollable? When faced with discomfort, embrace it as training. When overwhelmed by noise, filter your thoughts and return to the present. Before we move to the final part, reflect deeply on this. If the Stoics were right, and the key to serenity lies within your mind, what's stopping you from unlocking it right now? Unshakable peace. How to become an emotional fortress with Stoicism. Imagine being unshakable. Chaos swirls around you, emails, deadlines, arguments, and unexpected life events, but inside, there's calm. You're not numb, nor detached, but deeply composed, anchored in something far more powerful than the circumstances around you. This is what Stoicism offers. It's not a shield to block out the world, but a transformation of your inner self to withstand it. Let's revisit these 9 techniques, diving even deeper into their transformative potential. The dichotomy of control is more than separating what's in your power from what's not. It's about mastering the art of letting go. Let's say someone criticizes you unjustly. Your instinct might be to react defensively, replaying the incident over and over in your mind. But stop and ask, can I control their opinion, or just my response? This shift is liberation. Letting go isn't weakness. It's a declaration of strength. What are you holding on to right now that's outside your control? And what might happen if you simply released it? With negative visualization, consider this powerful modern exercise. Imagine losing your phone, your home, or even a loved one. At first, it's jarring, even painful, but as you sit with these thoughts, gratitude grows. You appreciate what you have more deeply because you understand its fragility. When you hug someone or hold a cherished object, do you recognize how fleeting and precious this moment is? Voluntary discomfort can also teach you the value of simplicity. Try spending a weekend unplugged from technology or living on a minimalist budget. The first few hours might feel unbearable, but soon, something shifts. You realize that comfort often dulls your awareness, while discomfort sharpens it. Is it possible that true freedom lies not in having more, but in needing less? Understanding your role in the greater whole is especially relevant in a world driven by individualism. When anxiety makes you feel small or insignificant, remember Marcus Aurelius' wisdom. What we do now echoes in eternity. Your actions matter. Whether it's a kind word, an honest effort, or a moment of courage. They ripple outward. If every person acted virtuously, how might the world transform? Journaling can become a powerful dialogue with your future self. Imagine writing to the you of 10 years from now. What would you want them to remember about today? Similarly, picture receiving a letter from your past self, one written during a difficult time. Would you see how far you've come? By externalizing your thoughts, you gain clarity that no fleeting worry can obscure. Living in the present moment is the antidote to anxiety, which thrives on past regrets and future fears. Here's a simple exercise. The next time you feel overwhelmed, pause, take 5 deep breaths. Notice your surroundings, the textures, the colors, the sounds. This moment is your life. Everything else exists only in your mind. When was the last time you truly experienced the here and now? Amor fati, the love of fate, might seem impossible when life feels unfair. But consider this: every challenge you've faced has shaped who you are. Your resilience, wisdom, and strength were born in adversity. Instead of cursing misfortune, embrace it. Even the most painful experiences are teachers. What if, instead of asking, "Why me?" you asked, "What can I learn from this?" The discipline of assent is a mental filter, one we desperately need in an age of information overload. Every thought, every belief, every emotion knocking at your mental door must be questioned. Is this true? Is this helpful? Is this necessary? Imagine how much lighter your mind would feel if you stopped granting access to every intrusive thought. Can you identify one thought today that doesn't deserve your energy? Finally, the practice of virtue is your guiding compass. In a moment of anger, ask, "What would courage look like here?" In a moment of temptation, ask, "What would temperance guide me to do?" By aligning your actions with virtue, you build a fortress of character that no storm can erode. If virtue became your default mode, how much of your anxiety would dissolve? Now let's put this all together. Picture your life if you truly lived by these techniques. The next time someone insults you, you smile inwardly, knowing their words have no power unless you give it to them. When faced with a setback, you see it not as failure but as training for your spirit. Each day, you journal your progress, live fully in the present, and embrace discomfort as an ally. You are no longer a victim of anxiety. You've become its master. Before we close, here's a question to leave you pondering. If you knew you couldn't fail, how boldly would you live? If serenity was already within you, what more would you need? The Stoics believed that we are architects of our own freedom. And now, so are you. What did you take from this? How will you begin?